Katy Marie, thanks for being on Live Life by Design. How are you today?
I'm doing so good, and I'm so honored to be here. So thank you for having me.
It's an honor for you to be here. Thanks for your time. Tell me what you're up to. What's keeping Katy Marie busy? And then, by the way, Katy Marie, tell me that combination. Is that first name, middle name, or?
Marie's my middle name.
Okay.
So I'm divorced, and when I got divorced, I haven't changed my name officially to anything, so I still have my married name. So unless it's like doctor's appointment or like legal, I use Marie as my last name, which has kind of just turned into Katy Marie. A lot of people call me that, but it's just more of me choosing that as my last name, because I didn't feel like my maiden name either after I got divorced either. Like I changed so much. So I didn't really feel like going back to that, and I wasn't my married name, so it was just Katy Marie. It's kind of what was
And now
invented.
everybody references you as Katy Marie. All your new acquaintances, your new circles.
Yeah, people will be like, Katy Marie. I'm like, all right, that works.
I like it. So when did that start? How long ago?
That was about 6 years ago.
Oh, so it's been a while.
It's been a while. It's been a minute since I had some big life changes where I had to kind of really come back to myself in a way that I never saw coming, but has been really beautiful.
That's cool.
Hard, but beautiful.
Let's talk whatever you want to go over. Let's talk about the hard. And again, I don't want to get too in depth here. I don't want to make you uncomfortable in any way, shape, or form. Obviously,
I'm a very open book, so that's hard to do.
There you go. I like that. But talk to us through some of the hard. And the reason I'm asking that question is, when people listen or watch episodes such as this one, it helps them maybe become a little bit more courageous to deal with some of the things that they're dealing with.
Yeah.
So I see it as a way of contribution.
Absolutely.
More than just stirring the pot again, whatever.
So much, yeah.
So maybe let's unpack it a little bit, see what that hard means to you, and see how you came through it, because it seems to me that you're at a point now where you're thriving. Yeah. So I think it's been a cool hero's journey. So let's talk about that hard for a minute.
Okay, so about 6 years ago, I had a point in my life where I had everything on paper that looked like I should have to be happy. So, you have all the check marks, like married, had the kids, the house, I was LDS at the time, had all of those things. And inside, I was so disconnected to who I was, and quite frankly, felt like I was dying inside because I was so disconnected from myself. And for the longest time, I'd been married for 14 years, married in the temple, married very young, had children, put all of my energy into being Mormon, because that's like, okay, if I just 110% give it there, then that will make up for this feeling of disconnect and emptiness that I was feeling. But I just hit this point where I was like, I cannot pretend anymore that I'm okay. And I actually it was after my daughter was born, which I don't think is coincidental either. I think there was something even subconsciously having her that awoke something in me that was just like, we cannot go forward like this. And I actually got an answer, which I don't know if it was my higher self, God, I don't know. And it was just like, Katy, you know what you're supposed to do, and you've known for a long time. And I was like, oh my God, okay. Because I knew I had to step away. I had to step away from my marriage. And in that process, stepped away from the religion. It kind of came as I started to listen and trust myself. I opened myself up to new things that I never would have let myself see. And I just came out of both of those things. And I lost how I identified as a human 100%. I was a stay-at-home mom for 11 years. My whole identity was wrapped up in the religion. I'm now having to figure out, okay, how do I provide for myself? How do I provide for my kids? Who am I even, right? Because I got married very young. I started having kids very young, and all of my identity was wrapped up in that. And so I jumped out. The pull that I got to follow this, because it was here. It was like a gut pull to follow this path outside of this structure, this life of having everything that I should have to be happy and yet wasn't. And most people looking at me going, you're crazy. You're losing your mind. You're going to ruin your life. You're going to ruin your kid's life. What are you doing? But I just had hit this point where I'm like, you know what? I cannot live my life for everybody else anymore. That like, maybe this looks good on paper, but it's not good here. And I had to make that choice to listen to this and jump into the unknown with nothing, honestly. Like, it's not like I'd been a stay-at-home mom, like I just mentioned. I had an associate degree that could do nothing with, no work experience, but I was just like, I gotta trust this. So I jumped out and, just like had to start to figure out, how do I land? Who am I? And, what direction do I go with my life? And I did. I started out working in different jobs and, trusting these gut pulls, because I think that initial pull, it was so big, to listen to that and follow that there were other little pulls that were like, okay, Katy, if you're going to work now, if you're going to go back to school, if you're going to follow a certain path with your career, I wanted it to be aligned to this. I didn't want to just I didn't want to jump from one cage into another just for like security, right? Which has been really hard in and of itself, because it's just like me trusting that pull to what's essentially led me to each next step. And I can look back and connect the dots. And, but at that time, it was very much just me like kind of being in it, losing who I was and trying to figure that out. But each step did. And I'm here now, which has been a process, but.
How you feeling now?
I have never been more centered in who I am, ever. And there's been times when I'm like, man, I wish it wouldn't have been so hard. I wish I'd had more help and more support and people who had my back, because most people didn't.
Is there a lot of abandonment?
So much abandonment from family and friends, the community. Everyone was just like, okay, well, you're crazy and bye. And I was just like, listen, please, I'm just trying to trust myself here. Like, please listen to me. I'm not trying to hurt anybody, but I'm also not going to pretend anymore. I'm not going to pretend for your sake that this little happy life over here is right for me, because I knew that it wasn't, like, deep in my soul. So it was really, really hard, because I could count on like my hand, like 3 or 4 people who were like in my corner as I chose to follow this other path. But because of it, it required me to go into myself and find a strength I did not know I had. I had to dive deep into myself because no one else was there for me.
Can you explain that? What does that mean? Because I think it's potentially a foreign concept for a lot of folks. I think I know what it means, but if you don't mind, let's elaborate on that.
Like diving into myself?
Because I'm with you. Like, I think a lot of people, I'll include me, you're told, do this, do that. And if you do those things, then equals this, and then you'll be happy.
Right.
Instead of like, whoa. Like, what do I want? Exactly. That's what my mom wants. That's what my dad wants. That's what my ecclesiastical leaders want.
Yeah.
That's what my business coaches want. But what do I want? And I think quite often we don't take the time and the humility, and we're not willing to get out of the comfort zone to ask, what do we truly want? So elaborate on that if you don't mind. Yeah,
well, I mean, it was me choosing to listen and very courageously jump into the unknown with very little support. And I didn't jump into any comforts, right, that could hold me.
Sure.
And so in that process, a lot of like my old stories, a lot of the like conditioned beliefs and things that I'd had of who I was and the type of mom that's, good enough, and like all those old stories, they were here, and I had to either like run from them or face them. And I chose to, and fortunately found some incredible, because like I said, I think that initial inertia of jumping and trusting my gut pulled me to the next right step of something that these different tools that could help hold me, so that I could actually go in and sit with like the crap, the pain, the discomfort that I'd been honestly not wanting to sit with for a long time. And in doing so, was able to center myself deeper and deeper and deeper into me. And if I just like jumped out of the marriage and immediately got married, or had comforts in ways that would have just, it's easy to then be like, oh, I'm good, right? Like life's breezy. I don't need to look at that. I never really got that. It was just more opportunity to look inwards, look at myself, what is here, and hold myself. Like I've recognized that the work that I've done over the last 6 years is essentially me coming back into myself to hold all those parts of myself that needed to be held, through different parts work and things that I've learned, the tools and things that I've learned to come back and center myself in me by coming home to myself, by not running from what's here inside my body.
Yeah. And and thanks for sharing all that. It's beautiful. And if you don't mind me asking, how are the kids doing with this? You know, divorce is always hard. You know, for the couple, it's quite often even harder for the kids because they don't, you know, that comprehension isn't there. They'll never really fully understand it, in my opinion. So how is that going?
Can I just tell you that's been like one of the hardest things as the mother, because I chose it. I chose it knowing that it was better for us in the long run.
Sure.
Than me to stay in a marriage that wasn't right.
Sure.
Right?
And so often couples stay together for the sake of the kids, but they're just destroying each other internally.
Exactly.
And then at some point it's like it's game over. Like there's almost no turning back. So it's very courageous. Some people might view it as that was kind of selfish.
Yeah.
That was kind of like,
think of the kids.
Yeah, think of the kids. But I don't know. The other side of the coin is no. Like it takes a lot of courage to come out of the shadows, tell the truth, be vulnerable, take on all the craziness that's coming your way to be able to move forward. So anyway, how are we doing with the kids? How are they faring?
Well,
again, as much as you want to share, I don't want to.
Again, no. This is I've been working on being vulnerable and sharing my story because I recognize how many people need to hear it. Because I know I'm not alone in this, and I want to be a voice that's like, hey, life is hard. Let's talk about it. It was incredibly hard at first. Super confusing for them, and another level of confusion being their dad is still very LDS, and I am not. So they're like living in between these two worlds where
are your kids more LDS leaning?
Yes,
still?
Very much. And so they're looking at me going, Mom, you're bad. Right? Like straight up, you're doing all the things that they tell us you're not supposed to do.
Yep.
I know in their heads it's like very confusing and they're hurting because of that confusion. And it's interesting because at first I would like play into that. I'd be like, oh, I'm so sorry. I hurt you. And like feel this guilt when I'd see them. And I had an experience where I realized I was like, wait, no, Katy, you're playing into this. You're adding to this by carrying this energy of guilt when you see them. But this is not that. You did this so that they could have a choice for themselves. And I don't care what they choose. Truly, like I'm in a place now where I'm like, whether you stay Mormon and that's your whole world, I promise you, I will be outside the temple. I will write you every day on your mission. Like I will support you in that. And I want you to know that there's more than one way to do life. And so it's definitely been, a little touch and go because of that, because of the religious aspect and how black and white Mormonism is. But I've also seen such beautiful moments with like my boys, because my boys were a little bit older. They were old enough to know mom as Mormon mom. My oldest was 11, then 9 and 7. I've had moments with my boys where they've come to me and been able to open up and say things to me that I know they would never have been able to talk to me about if I was still very much in that Mormon mindset.
Sure.
So I'm seeing little glimpses of that, and I'm seeing like it's the long game for them, because it is just a little bit confusing, you know, but they can feel my energy. Energy doesn't lie. And I know, like, you can look at my pictures from when I was in and when I'm out, and just, I'm so much more centered in myself that they can tell, like, I'm not the same person. My daughter she was 1, and she's just like this little mini me, and really is getting it. Like, we've had some really beautiful conversations. I tell her, I'm like, I feel God in the mountains. Yeah. Like, I'm expanding my spirituality outside of just Mormonism. It's not just here for me. So that aspect has been difficult, but my ex-husband and I have a really amazing co-parenting relationship where we're on the same team. You know, we still talk, we still, like, we can do family birthday dinners. I can call him and be like, hey, this is what's going on. Like, so in that sense, it's really beautiful. Like, I feel like our family is doing really well in that sense. Did he
remarry?
He is remarried, and he has 2 new daughters with his wife. And so yeah, as far as like blending and like co-parenting, we're on the same team. And that matters.
And you guys live in proximity with each other, right?
Yeah, we're like, I'm like the 2-minute walk from his house.
Got it.
And I did that on purpose, because at first I was like a 10-minute drive, and I was like, all I am ever doing is in my car driving you back to your neighborhood where like your life is. Because he's still in the house where we got divorced. Because when we first divorced, we nested, meaning the first year he and I would take turns leaving the house, and the kids never did. So that's just easier. We wanted to make it as like not as chaotic for them. Like, him and I got an apartment, and he found somewhere he would stay when it was like my time versus his time. So that was nice. And then he got married pretty quickly, and then we've just been figuring it out. We're still a family. We're just we look a little bit different.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you sharing all this. Hopefully this is helping our viewers and our listeners. Just, you know, obviously the intent is don't leave whatever religion you're in. If it's working for you, it's working for you. Or marriage or company or whatever the case is, right? So how is it, so people that were, I'm sure a lot of people were almost like disgusted with some of the choices you were making for leaving something that is so near and dear to, you know, so many folks. Do you have some folks now that were almost haters now saying, hey, I see you now, I actually commend you for doing what you do, or you still have those haters hating? How's that going?
I feel like more people are like, hey, I see you. You know, I think that they can see that I'm happy. And I truly am, like, in a way that I've never been. I'm hard to say with everybody, but yeah, it doesn't feel as like I'm on the outskirts. And that's partly, I think, because of my energy in which I'm embodied, right? Like, I remember the first time I like wore something that showed that I wasn't wearing garments, and it was like terrifying for me, because it's just another layer of showing like, hey, I'm not a part of this anymore, and I know what you guys are thinking about me. Yeah. But with all the healing that I've done and all the work that I truly have come back into hold myself, I've learned that no matter what, it's us. We are the ones who have to come in and relationally hold ourselves. Everybody's been through stuff in life, right? And when you can come back in and hold those parts of you that need to be held and witnessed from a loving place, as from me, because nobody else is going to do it. Nobody else is coming in to make sure that I'm okay. And each time that I've done that, I've just been able to hold my head higher and be like, you know what? Here I am. And I actually like who I am. So I'm okay to be in this. I'm
assuming, and I apologize if I'm asking a question that shouldn't have gone there, but was there a lot of moments in your life where you just didn't like who you saw in the mirror? Or
100%.
So do you recall when the first moment, after you felt that way, how long did it take you to finally say, I actually like myself now?
Ooh. Oh, there was a lot of self-loathing when I first left. There was a lot of moments like, oh my gosh, I've ruined everything. Can I go back? It was so scary.
Did you almost go back?
No, there was never going back. I think at one point I did say to my ex-husband, do you think should we do this? And I think at that point he was like, no.
Did you have any false starts before that final peace out? Did you almost get to that point, or when you finally got to that point, that was the first time?
The point of
divorce and saying, I can't live this life anymore. Meaning, were you at the cusp, were you at the verge of doing it before, or was it just...
It kind of happened quick.
Yeah, so it was one time that you measured 1,000,000 times and you cut it once.
Yeah.
Okay, you didn't have any half cuts.
I've been silently suffering for a long time, and I finally spoke it out hey, I'm not okay. To him, to my family and my friends, and everyone was like, no. Just pray harder. Did you go to the... No. They just...
Right.
And I was like, I know, this sucks. Okay. And tried therapy. I went to different things to try and help. And that's when I got that answer. I'd had it bottled in for so long. Because honestly, in my head, I was like, well, I'm married. I'm married in the temple. This is my life, right? Maybe when I get to heaven, I'll feel better. It'll be better than this is. And not to speak ill on my ex-husband, because he actually is a fantastic human. It's just, we got married as babies.
How old?
I was barely 20. He was 21. Dated for 3 months. Wow. Any two righteous people can make it work in our culture. Hold on.
Wait, you got engaged 3 months after, or you got married 3 months after?
We got engaged 3 months after we started dating, married in 5 months.
So 5-month run.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we're married.
Yeah.
Which is so normal for here, right?
Right. But again, you don't know each other.
We don't know each other. And he's a good man.
Yeah.
He truly is. I could not ask for a better dad to my kids.
Sure.
He's 110% on board. I respect him and I'm very grateful for him. But was he my romantic partner? No. So when I finally admitted that I had been struggling for so long, because I just suppressed it. I just suppressed it. And finally I was like, I'm not okay. And then from then it was just not going back. And then when I did get that answer of Katy, you know what you're supposed to do and you've known for a long time, I was like, okay, well, let's do this. And I honestly didn't expect to lose everybody at that point. I really didn't. I didn't expect that it would then be me on my own. But again, looking back, I can see how it was a gift, because it made me have to go so deeply into myself to hold myself from within, that's where this very centered sense of self has come from. If I'd had the comforts in any of the ways that would have helped me, I wouldn't be as progressed along this path as I am now.
Thank you. That's beautiful. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
Okay, you mentioned that you've told your kids that you see God, feel God in nature. People that follow you, they know that you're always in the mountains.
Yeah.
So talk us through that. What do the mountains do? What do they give you? What do the mountains represent? And how do you embrace nature the way that you do? And give us some guiding principles there.
Do you just see my smile getting bigger as you're talking about the mountains? I'm like, yes.
And are you from Utah originally?
I am from Utah originally.
And has this always been a love of yours, the mountains?
I've always loved the mountains. My dad grew up climbing them. So we would go in nature together a lot. But it wasn't until I got divorced that I really ran to the mountains. That saying, the mountains called and I must go, was real for me. I found myself being called into the mountains, and as I would push myself hard on them, it was like I was moving through a lot of that pain, and I was so alone in a lot of ways, right? And there was so much uncertainty, and there was so much weight that I was carrying alone as a single mom, trying to figure out what I'm going to do with my life as I show up for my kids, as I find who I am even. And I felt like as I was going there, the mountains were holding me and they were teaching me. And I found myself there. I found myself through them. And I started to recognize this beautiful connection that we are not separate from nature. Life is in everything, right? In anything that has the trees, the mountains, this earth, there's energy in everything. And when the more time you spend with it, the more you're able to like pick up on that energy and start to like commune honestly with it. And I feel like that's what started to happen for me. And just really, it was therapy. It was my therapy. I was moving through so much pain and like starting to experience peaks in ways that I'd not done before. And then you go up and you see life from this different perspective, and it would just be like, oh my God, and like just fill me up to the brim, and then just help anchor and hold me to come back down into life and to continue to conquer the mountains that were down here waiting for me. So
let me ask you this. So you mentioned you felt really alone. I'm sure you felt a lot of there was a lot of shame thrown your way, I'm sure.
So
and guilt
much.
and shame are completely distinct, and we can talk about that later. But did you have a lot of friends when you were going through that divorce, or were you so entrenched in the mom life and the church life that friends kind of were not a priority?
No, I started to make friends, definitely.
While you were still married?
Oh, I lost most of my...
Yeah, that's my question. It's, where were your friends at in all this? Were they like, hey, Katy Marie, we got you? Or did even your friends...
I had like maybe one or two of my old friends from that life that were like, they could still kind of see me and like hold me, which I'm super grateful to them. But then that...
Is it almost like, I don't want to associate with this because this isn't what I believe in. I don't want to be seen with this. I don't want to be guilty through association.
Well, and I think just a lot of confusion, right?
Yeah.
And they're scared and they're like, oh God, what is Katy doing?
Yeah.
You know, that's like a lot of just, so I didn't have a lot of the old friendships.
Yeah, I think a lot of times when you're going through that, they probably think that it's a means to an end to live more of a crazy lifestyle, you know, partying and
for
whatever the case is.
I wish it was that easy. I'm like, good. Please, I wish. No, it's not me just trying to like go have fun. Like that would have been easier. I mean, talk about existential crisis. You go from having all the answers to why you're here and where you're going to go when you're dying. If you're perfect, you'll get there with your family, to like, I don't even know anymore.
Yeah.
And there were moments where I'm like, the weight of that's scary. You know, like trying to sift through, why am I even here?
Yep.
You know? So yeah, I don't have a lot of the same friendships that I had before.
Let me ask you this. Do you have more friends now than you used to?
I have such beautiful friendships now. And you want to know what's so cool? Is they're from me being me. Not the version of me before where I was like...
fabricated.
Yeah. Filling the roles that I was supposed to fill in order to fit in. Sure, I had a lot of friends there. Now my friendships are so deep and real, and I'm so grateful. I've never had connections like I've had now. And it's coming from me being like, you know what, this is who I am. And if you are okay with this, awesome. And if you're not, that's okay too. But I'm not. No longer will I continue to shut myself down or self-betray in order to make you happy. And that's not to say that I like don't care about people, right? Like I do very deeply, and I'm open to having real conversations to make a relationship work, because communication is key to anything, right? But it's coming from a place of, this is me. And I think that's the cool thing to watch, is like this process of coming into myself more and more, having myself more and more, building my connection through nature and the mountains more and more. I'm coming out and I'm just like, the confidence that I have in myself to do some of the things that I do now. Like my old Katy would be like, get it, girl, like, wow. And I have friends, because I have friends now who see me that are like cheering me on. They believe in me. When I have bad days, I can go to them and they'll hold me in it, but they still have the ability to go, I know who you are. I'm not going to let you forget that. Like, because I've had friendships even over the last few years post like leaving the church and all of my big change that I could tell like couldn't really hold me there. There was something about me growing that was like a threat to them, right? Because they weren't centered in themselves enough to be able to look at me and go, yeah. You know what I mean?
Have you had a lot of folks reach out to you and be like, hey, I see you and I'm actually going through this, but I don't dare go through what you just went through?
Yes.
Does that happen often?
A lot.
More than people would guess, right?
Yeah. People will DM me and be like, I'm here. Thank you for sharing. It's been scary to be so vulnerable and share like the real time what's been going on in my life. But I felt... And
question, do you have people from other belief systems outside of Mormonism reaching out as well?
Yeah. Well, because some of the cool trainings that I've done to like different certifications and things to help me in my career have been with people all over the world. So I've made connections with people outside of just Utah. And yeah, I think it's an inspiration to a lot of people to just go, hey, what's right for you? You know, find that from within and live your truth.
Help the viewers understand this, because again, people might view that like, hey, it's too late for you to go do what is in it for you because you have kids, you have a husband, you have all these priorities and responsibilities. So how do you explain, hey, I had to do this, I had to find me, and that is selfless, not selfish? Help us unpack that.
I honestly believe that the most important thing each one of us can do, and is the least selfish thing, is to come back to yourself, find who you are, and live that authentic expression. Live a life that's like really coming from you, not how you've been conditioned to be, not all the rules and the check marks. It doesn't even have to be religion, right? You could have grown up in a family. It's like you have to be a doctor, or you have to be this, or you know, in order to have value. But is that really true for you? Because if it's not, your light is dimmed. But when you are connected into what I like to call your life force, like your energy, what lights you up, that is only going to benefit everybody in your world for good, because you are shining, you are lit up, you are connected into your gifts and your passions and and that ripples out. You know, we're connected as humans. We're not separate.
So by having your light shine, you're able to serve yourself and other human beings at large, because you're in your authentic true self and you've found yourself.
Exactly. So it's not selfish. It's actually
the whole premise of when you're in an airplane, they tell you to put your mask on first and then help your kids.
You put that mask on first. And when you do, then you're able to show up, and it's like they can feel it, because again, energy doesn't lie. You can walk into a room, and if someone is angry, you can feel it, right? Like they're pissed and they're just sitting there, and you're like, ooh, what is up with Jeff? He is in a mood. If that was you, right? It's the same thing. Like you can sit there and pretend like, oh, I've got everything right going for me, but I am so miserable inside. I'm so disconnected from myself. I'm unhappy at home, in my work life, my marriage, or whatever it is. So when you start to get the inside right, when you start to really feel good inside, you can feel that. And everybody really truly does benefit. And everybody has unique gifts. Everybody has the ability to create and extend from that place from within. And if you're tapped into that, that is powerful. You know, like that light radiates out, and it impacts everybody that you come in contact with.
And this is what's interesting is I think, you know, people that maybe saw your experiences like, they're the same people that love Justin Bieber, completely tatted up and has a crazy life, you know, according to some standards, or, you know, Taylor Swift, or, you know, people that aren't doing what dogma dictates, but yet they're viewed as heroes. Why? Because they're willing to go out there and be their authentic true self.
Right.
And they get on stage and they're vulnerable and their lives are, you know, out there in the open. So it's just an interesting, you know, dynamic with some of the things we say, but yet they're contrary to what we do. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, totally.
Because, you know, I admire people that are just like, I don't care what you think. I'm me.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to do me. I have one life to live.
Yes.
I'm going to be true to me. And that doesn't give people license to be a prick.
Right.
It just allows people to let their light shine and be who they are. And I think that's the greatest gift you can give the world. There's only one you.
There is only one you, and there's only one life.
Yeah.
And you can feel it. You can feel someone, like when someone's just like really centered in themselves and they like are like exuding that energy of just like, I'm grounded in who I am. I'm okay on my own. I don't actually need you to make me feel good, because there really truly is nothing outside of us, materials, holistic things, people, anything that can make us okay. It's an inside job. It's not to say that like having, like we need connection. We're hardwired for human connection. But when you become codependent on someone and it's like, I need this person in order to be happy, and they need to be a certain way in order for me to be happy, like that's never going to work. Same with materialistic things. Our society is so hyper focused on just more things. And are we all really happy just buying more things? Or do we really just need each other and like human connection in a healthy way? But it all is an inside job. When you start to feel anchored and centered in yourself, you recognize, first of all, I can hold myself through pretty much anything. And life is going to life us, all of us. And when you learn how to have that centered sense of self, you can hold yourself in a way that isn't based on everything in my exterior world needs to go as planned, or I'm going to lose my mind. I'm not going to be able to hang, right? And that's such a different energy. It's just like more of a, you got to be in yourself and kind of dance with life. I as what I'm noticing, like there's times when you're led and there's times when you need to be led, but you're not like clinging so tightly to things outside of you to make you be okay. Nothing can make you be okay. That's an inside job. That's you having to go in and go, I got me. I'm going to hold myself. And then back to what we were talking about, that extends to everybody. And it gives them the permission to be themselves. That's what we all want. We want to be seen and loved for who we are.
Want to be seen, want to be heard. Yeah.
We want to be heard. Yeah.
And then your profession now, because your profession revolves around everything we've been talking about, right?
Yeah.
So talk to us about what you do in your professional realm. How are you helping other human beings?
So I went back to school when I was like, who am I and what am I going to do with my life?
If you don't mind me asking, how old were you when you went back to school?
I was 34.
34.
Yeah. So anyone out there that has to start over, it's not too late. Honestly. I was 34. Like I said, I had an associate's degree, no work experience.
What was your associate's in?
It was just like a general science. I just like locked in my generals when I got pregnant with my first son, because I was like, I'm never going to need to use this. Famous last words, right?
Yep.
So I was really torn. I knew I wanted to help people, but I didn't know, like, do I go back and finish my degree? I could become like a therapist, or I could do the more unconventional route, which is life coaching. And I really felt pulled towards that. So I ended up doing that, which was life coaching, NLP practitioner, which is neuro-linguistic programming. It's all dealing with the subconscious mind, hypnotherapy, time techniques, tapping. So I did that. And then
So is that a whole bunch of certificates?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. I got certified and trained and all of that. And then was like, cool, this is awesome, which was so good for my brain, by the way, because I had been raised in a religion that, you know, my subconscious brain was very much trained to see life a certain way. So then I'm learning about the brain and how it works, and like, oh, we can actually change our brains. We don't have to stay in these same programs and do things the same way. There's these different tools to help us to like expand beyond that. And then
kind of recode and rewire the nervous system.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. New neural pathways. We can create new neural pathways to see ourselves in a completely different way. So that was awesome to learn to help other people, but also myself. It's kind of cool to look back, like all of the things that I was being pulled to do was everything that I needed to heal. Then I found Breathwork, which one of my friends from the certification that I was just in was like, Katy, I'm doing Breathwork, this certification this weekend. And I was like, I don't know why, but I'm going to do it with you. It was one of those like gut
Sure.
knowings. Did the certification that weekend. I'd never experienced that type of breath work. And I was like, what just happened to me? It was one of the coolest things ever because it's a 3-part breath. So you're manipulating your breath to really drop you into your body to essentially move the stored emotions and traumas that we've been carrying, honestly, since we were children. And also while we're in that state, it's naturally raising our brain to a non-ordinary state, which we're tapping into a theta brainwave state. Well, that is where you start to tap into your subconscious mind, which is where all of our programming is. And for us, for most people, like 70% of our programming is non-empowering. So we're sitting here like making choices, not even realizing it, because the subconscious
brushing
brain,
your teeth, driving a car.
Yeah, like you learn how to walk, you learn how to drive a car, and then there's a lot of other things. Like if your parents, thought that, like whatever they thought about money, any relationships, if in the home as a child from 0 to 7, you're a sponge. Your brain is in theta brainwave state. So you're just like, you're born and you're just like programmed by your environment, by your home, your brothers, your teachers, your culture, everything telling you how you human. And then that's the programs that are then as adults still running us. But a lot of them don't even make sense, right? They maybe worked for our parents back then,
Sure.
Or it was a generational thing that was super unhealthy that was just being passed down. So in the breath work, it's great because you're naturally, by the way that you're breathing, you're elevating yourself to a state where you're getting outside of your critical thinking mind. So you can start to tap into that place where you can go beyond the programming. And since I'm trained in hypnotherapy and NLP in my sessions, I'm then rewiring by like talking and doing guided visualizations that help you to tap back into your highest self. Like, hey, let's get back to the truth here. What's beneath all the conditioning and things that you've learned? So I did that weekend, completely blown away, and was like, okay, I have got to start to do this. Started teaching breath work in like small groups.
Is it one certification and you're done, or is it multifaceted?
It was a one certification and it was done, but you can do different kinds. But I did take my training further, and I studied with Gabor Mate, who's this incredible doctor changing the game of trauma. So I did a year-long training with him, learning all about how trauma impacts the body and how we can somatically work through that kind of in a therapeutic setting. So it's not breath work, but it was more about, you can sit and it's more body focused. It's more like, because the body is, our brains, they want to make stories. They're full of so much programming. And for most of us, we're mostly in our brain.
Yeah. If you get in your head, you're dead.
Yes. And most of us are only in our head. Why? Because we've been so disconnected from our bodies because of trauma. Mm-hmm. If there's like energy and pain and something in here and you have not dealt with it, where are you going to go? Here. Mm-hmm. And what's here? You're programmed. You're programmed by your society and all the things that have led you to make a math equation and get to a certain answer. But is that really the answer? Probably not. It's just what you've been taught to believe is true. And so learning how to come into the body and let the body talk, sitting in the body and like guiding people through like, okay, what is here? Let's sit with this emotion for a minute. And that's when you really get to go into that part work that I was talking about, where I've gone in and held myself, like the different parts of myself as a child. Like I've so many times have gone in and I've held her in different situations. So that now, because really all those parts that got shut down, because in an ideal world, we would have been raised by parents who could emotionally just witness us and hold us when something traumatic or heavy happened to us. And then that wouldn't become an issue. But most of us have had to just like suck it up. And then we just store that away inside of our bodies. And so I did a year-long training with him in his compassionate inquiry program. And that, I mean, if nothing else, if I didn't even use that for a professional setting, it changed my life.
Wow.
I still practice that. Like one of my cohort, my teammates, we meet every other week and we practice it on each other because it's just so powerful to be held compassionately and by a witness too, because we're wounded in relationship. And so we heal in relationship. So it's to sit next to someone and have them go, okay, where are you feeling that in your body, Jeff? And your eyes are closed and you're tapping into that emotion and you're letting the emotion come up and start to do the talking, not this. That's when you're really able to move through that and like get to that wounded part of you that just needs to be seen and heard. And you get to come in and be like, listen, buddy, I'm here for you. And so.
Crazy. It's crazy that something so simple as breathing can cure. You know, some people might think, what are you talking about? This is so wonky. You know, I'm sure there's some viewers thinking that right now, but it's like, you're the same guy that wants to go to a doctor and get prescribed with a artificial medicine.
Exactly.
That just keeps you on it for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Like, why not dig into this? Why not drop your ego a little bit and see what this breath work and all this connecting with nature is all about? Because pretty sure God, the universe, whatever your belief system is, put these things somewhere so that we could take full advantage of them, and we're just not through the ways that we've been conditioned over the years.
Well, and society, since
something so normal and so simple and so natural is kind of deemed as
like woo-woo,
weird.
Like, yeah,
woo-woo,
exactly.
Whatever.
But societies across, like since the beginning of time, have been using breath.
Yeah, you're right. So it's more Western civilization, because if you go to Eastern civilization, they think we're crazy for not talking about it more or not doing it. You're right. Yeah.
And till you try it, it's easy to be like, that's weird. That's not going to work.
I'm that guy. Like, I'm Mr. Macho, flat brim hat, whatever. Like, breath work. What are you talking about? My first experience doing breath work was with Wim Hof.
Yeah.
I was at an event in LA called Summit, and it's the first time I had ever really even heard of the concept. And Wim Hof, I don't know what your opinion is of him, but
very cool.
It's like the godfather of breathwork, right?
Yeah.
And I think the story goes that his wife actually committed suicide, from what I understand.
Yeah.
This gentleman's from Poland, and he looked at all different types of cures, if you will, and he couldn't find anything that would help with his anxiety, depression, etc. And then he found breathwork and cold therapy.
Yeah.
Anyway, long story short, he's on stage. He's this super crazy big character, right?
He is, yeah.
And we start doing this breath work, and I'm, part of the conference is, hey, we don't want you to fit in here. We want you to belong. Just be you, but drop any preconceived notions and just play full out. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to play full out. I'll follow this guy. My old self would have been like, I'm not going to breathe a single time. This guy's going to try to hypnotize me and take money out of my pocket or something. So anyway, I'm doing the whole breath work, and I'm like, and he said, you're going to get a crazy high. I'm like, well, whatever, bro. We're just breathing here.
Right.
So I'm doing it. I'm like, this is crazy. Massive, crazy, like high. Guys, it's breath. It's nothing else.
Yeah.
Breath work. I'm like, seeing rainbows and stars and unicorns. I'm super happy. Dopamine everywhere.
Yes.
Anyway, I had to catch a flight, and this is probably 4 hours later. I'm sitting next to somebody that starts engaging in conversation with me. My old self would put headphones on or be like, hey, I'm busy, I'm reading my book, or I'm sending texts, responding to emails, etc. But I'm so high that I just want to talk to the person next to me. And we're just chatting it up. We're having this great time. And I think the first time in my life somebody says to me, hey, I love your energy. You're so energetic. You're so outgoing. You're so like giving and just your energy is so crazy. Can I follow you on Instagram?
No way.
I'm like, what in the world? And it was because of that.
Yeah. I believe it.
It works. It works.
It really does. So the style of breath that I do is a little bit different than Wim Hof because it's a 3-part breath, but it's essentially you're reaching that high, and people have non-ordinary experiences. You're releasing DMT into the body.
So hold on. So it's almost as consuming.
Yeah. Like a psychedelic experience. People have psychedelic type experiences with their breath. That's what I've heard.
And I heard your hands go like this.
You get weird tetany. That's the part where you like have to really dig deep and kind of push through it. But if you can imagine, like, the thing I love about breath work is your breath is like an anchor, so it's holding you. So all of that unresolved emotions and stress and trauma that you are experiencing can move through you, be released from your body, and then you're elevating to this state of just like, what the, like, people are getting visitations from loved ones. They're seeing themselves in different situations, their childlike selves, where they're able to go in and sit and hold them. How are they getting
visitations from their loved ones? What's the science behind that, if there is a science?
I have no idea. And not everybody does that, but I have had several people be like, my mom came and she was with me during that experience. And, you know, because there is no science that I can back behind that, but it just is happening. People are just going to these places in their brains, that it's changing their lives. I've watched people's lives change. There was a group of guys who came regularly for like a year, once a month, breathwork as part of their like healing. They were doing other types of healing, like therapy and things along with it. I could see it in their eyes. Like every time they would come, I'd be like, oh my God. It's like they were like coming back on. They were like coming back on to who they, the light was coming back on to who they were, because they were processing and letting go of so much. Because think of like, I use the analogy of a balloon. If you're holding a balloon underwater and you don't want that balloon to come up, that's a lot of energy that you're putting to keep that balloon underwater. Emotions are just energy, emotion. They want to move through you. And if we have the tools to hold ourselves to feel, they should be able to move through you, rather than, I can't feel that. I can't feel that. And we're just shutting down. But like all that energy is going into that. So when you start to free that up by releasing that energy, what do you have? You have all this energy then to create and put it towards something that you actually want to go towards. Mm-hmm. And something that I've really learned over the last 6 years is we're human. We're supposed to be having a human experience. And if we're so afraid of our emotions, good and bad, like if we want to be a 5 all the time, okay, that's fair, but that's not really living. Living is feeling all of the emotions. And that comes with the painful, hard ones. But I promise you, because of the pain that I've sat in, and I have had moments where I'm like, many moments where I'm on the floor in the fetal position, bawling my eyes out like, man, life is hard. This is heavy. But it's because of those moments that like I can feel joy from some of the simplest things, like being out in nature and there's birds flying across the sky and I hear the river and I'm just like, wow, it's so beautiful. You know, like it's connected. And if we're so afraid to be in our bodies and to feel, we're missing out on the human experience. And I really do feel like we are here to live alive. And in order to do that, you have to be able to feel. And in order to feel, if we're all congested with a bunch of stuff that we're running from, I'd rather be anywhere than with this. We're missing out.
And potentially that's why people cope with working hard,
drugs and alcohol, anything. And Gabor Mate, he teaches it's not why the addiction, it's why the pain. And the addiction can be working hard. It doesn't have to be something in society that's bad, right? It could be like, I'm a really successful doctor, which he was. And he'll admit that was his coping mechanism to make him feel good for the pain that he felt inside of himself that he wasn't able to sit with. But once you start to get to the root of why the pain, learning to go in and sit with that. And it's not like if someone's going to try and sell you a one-time quick fix, run. I've been 6 years in the making of getting to this point of like, and I'm still doing it, right? Like I'm still in the process, but that is life. Yeah. But it's possible. It's really possible to get to that point where you don't have to run anymore. And when you stop running from yourself and you can sit inside yourself, then guess what? Then you start to lead from here because you've got a gut and a heart, and this is part of your knowledge.
Before this, did you ever sit still and just try to find yourself before the divorce and everything? No, I just get to thinking, I mean, you mentioned you hear birds chirping and you listen to the river. I mean, I remember the last few times I've gone up in the mountains, I'm like, oh yeah, this is cool, whatever. But I probably don't hear the birds. Definitely don't hear them the way you hear them.
I get
because I'm so
out.
busy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And maybe my coping mechanism is, okay, let's hurry up and see this so I can get back to my conference call or being a producer again, etc. But as you're going through this, I'm like, man, when's the last time? I mean, I try to do a sound bath at least once a week.
Cool.
And it's like my highlight of the week, right? Because I get to sit still. I get to like listen to myself.
Yeah.
And in fact, the weeks that I don't do the sound bath, they're kind of off the following week because I didn't get that same grounding, that same like spiritual connection. But it's interesting because like if you told me right now, hey, let's go to the mountains and let's go sit for an hour, it would freak me out.
Yeah.
Because I'm just used to the busyness. In fact, now that I think about it, I did an event with one of the companies that I used to lead. And this gentleman was helping us with teamwork, team building, etc. And he says, I know that this is going to be really hard for you top producing guys, you alphas. I need you to go out in nature right now. We were up in, can't remember what forest system we're at, the Uintas or something. And he goes, I want you to go find a place where nobody is next to you. No phones, no nothing. He had confiscated our phones. And I said, I want you to find a place and I want you to just sit still with yourself for 2 hours. And, we had done bungee jumping. We had done he had ropes up in these really tall trees and with harnesses, like really daredevil type stuff. And that stuff freaked us all out more than all the...
For sure.
Like...
Being quiet with yourself.
Yeah, we were like, how are we going to do this? An hour? Yeah.
Yeah.
So crazy. So interesting.
I believe that. And it's interesting because growing up with a family and my dad who loved the mountains, when I go out in nature now, I get blissed out, like almost ecstasy blissed out, where I'm just like,
I gotta share this. Even I've told my wife this, but even if I'm in my car, let's say I'm driving from Salt Lake to my house, 45-minute drive, I feel more comfortable calling somebody
than being alone.
And then being alone.
Yeah.
And the drive goes that much better, that much quicker.
Right.
And I guess what I say is I'm a people person, which I am. I get a lot of energy when I'm connecting with other human beings. But anyways, you're going through it. I'm trying to do that self-inventory of like, okay, what's really going on here? How do I peel this back and really what's going on? You know what I mean?
Once you do start to peel that back, once you can sit with yourself, and it's a process, right? Like it's not going to happen overnight.
Sure.
And I've noticed the more I've healed my connection to myself, where I can be alone with myself and I'm okay, the more I can go out into nature and be completely filled by it and have it communicate with me too, where I'm just like, I am recharged by it. I can tell if it's been a few days and I haven't been outside in the mountains, I'm like, what's wrong with me?
How often do you go up in the mountains?
I mean...
Is it daily?
It's almost daily. I've been training for this big mountain goal, the Whirl, which I was having to train like really, really hard. That's been pushed back because they closed the route and I've had to like kind of redirect all of that. So for a minute there, I was like in the mountains every day going hard.
But, and then how long or how far do you go? How many miles do you usually go when you start your hikes?
It just depends.
So how your miles and then elevation?
So this is what I'm learning. So they have something called FKT, which is fastest known time. There's something about going so hard, just like pushing your body really hard. Like I'm generally getting like if I've done a bunch of pushes in the Tetons. They're some of my favorite mountain ranges, which you're getting like, I don't know, 6,000 feet of elevation in like 4 miles. So that means you're like straight up and you're climbing. And I love climbing. I love there's something about that like high intensity mountaineering that just fills me up. But I also love like the trees. And I love to like slow down and like connect and notice the trees and sit by the river. And
I think I saw on your Instagram that you ran into somebody in the forest or something. They taught you how to talk to a tree or something like that?
Yes.
Okay.
I was probably this forest ranger.
Here we go.
So I love trees so much. My kids make fun of me. They're probably like, my mom has lost her mind. I'm like, I don't care. If that's wrong, I don't want to be right. But, and I love the trees so much. So we were hiking, my friend and I, and we saw a forest ranger. So we were just talking to him for a minute, and he's like, well, let me tell you how you can like talk to the tree, and you shake its hand.
And he was just straight, like,
oh yeah.
Like,
he was like, this is how you do it.
Matter of fact, this is how we do it.
Yes.
Okay.
And I was like, you are my people. I don't think he's ever met.
I would have been like, what are you talking about, bro? Peace.
I know. He's never met a more enthusiastic person that's like, tell me everything I need to know about the trees. So he told me how to like shake their hands, because you can like, you grab the end of the branch and you like rub on it, and you can feel like if it's soft, it's a fir, a Douglas fir. If it's pokey, it's a spruce. And then he was telling me about the trees in the cottonwoods, how when, I can't remember when it was, like the 1700s or the 1800s, when they started to come in and build houses. They just came in and wiped out all the trees. So there's certain places in the canyon that trees were too hard to get to. So these are like 400-year-old ancient trees. I'm not kidding. You can tell when you get to them. They're just so big, and they're like gnarly, and they have just this energy about them that's like very wise and ancient. So yeah, nature. I'm really, really learning so much. We're not separate. We're not separate. There's so much that we can learn from it.
And I know a lot of folks that do a lot of the breath work and the things that you were mentioning. One of the things that you realize when you're on these, these peak states is we're all connected.
Yes.
Do you feel that way as well?
100%.
Not just nature, but all humans are connected.
Humans, we're all connected. And that's the thing. That's why I think it's so important for each one of us to come back to ourselves and find our inner light. Like it's there, that true essence.
So what does it mean when people say, hey, one thing that I learned, one thing that I found is we're all connected? What does that mean in essence? Because it's easy to say it. Yeah, we're all connected. But what does it mean? And what do we do with that information?
Well, I feel like, just like the trees are connected, right? They have a root system under the ground. They send nutrients to each other. They recognize that as a species, they're going to thrive together.
Sure.
They're not separate.
Oh, okay.
I feel like that's the same as humans.
Okay.
Like we're all connected.
So the more you help other people out, your brothers and sisters,
the
more we're
a human
be
species.
Fulfilled. Oh,
yeah. So like it's like me rising to the top by myself to do what? Look down at everybody else down there suffering, struggling to get to the top? No, like we rise together and we're connected.
So you with that knowledge, now let's say that somebody pisses you off, which nobody can piss you off. You can only piss yourself off.
Sure.
The way you react.
Can piss me off. Just kidding.
But you know what I'm saying.
Yes.
Like real talk, nobody can piss you off because you choose.
You choose.
Sure, there are behaviors you may not agree with, but you choose how you react. So now with all this knowledge and all this work that you've done, when you choose to be pissed off by somebody doing something that you don't agree with or something that was rude, how do you still have that information, hey, we're all one, and still like not want to like harm that person, if you will?
Well, I think
because that's one thing that I've always kind of wondered, Well,
I think it comes down to boundaries. Honestly, like we're all still connected, but if someone's hurting me, if someone's taking away from me.
Let's go simple.
Okay.
They cut you off on the freeway.
Oh, so like how do I respond to that?
Like do you remember at that point in time, hey, we're all connected. That's my brother.
Well, it depends.
That's my sister.
It depends because I can get pretty heated when I'm behind the wheel. I'm loving light until I'm driving my car. You know what I mean? Just kidding. Then I'm like, you jerk. No, just kidding. Yeah, I think it's a practice. It's a practice. And the more centered I can be to find that capital S self, that centered sense of self, the easier it is to look at compassion at everybody. And what they're doing around me. So do I get angry sometimes still? 100%. Am I able to go,
But
Katy?
you're less angry, I'm assuming, with this information that you have.
Or if I am, I'm able to bring myself back quicker and go,
you have systems, mechanisms.
Yes,
you have
to help me come back and go, what's really going on here?
Yeah.
And what's this about? Don't take it personally.
The first time we were actually doing a little family activity outside of a Schlotzsky's in North Carolina. And we're doing a family night. My wife, my kids, me, and my father-in-law, and my mother-in-law as well, my wife's parents. And we read that the lesson was, hey, nobody can cause you to be upset. You choose to be you're the one that chooses to be upset. Because as a kid, I would have, you made me mad. You upset me. Anyway, the reason I'm bringing that up is that the moment I read that, it was like I got hit with a ton of bricks.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, I take accountability. I'm the master. Yeah. I'm the author of my emotions and my reactions and what I allow to move me or not move me.
You put yourself in the power seat. Rather than being a victim, you put yourself in the power seat.
If the viewers, listeners can, like, think about how powerful that is when you don't allow other people to control you.
Yeah.
And get rid of the language, because whatever you say, that ends up being what enters your DNA. Whatever you tune into, you turn into. So avoid saying, he upset me, he pissed me off, you made me mad, you made me angry. It's not true. You're the one making those choices. Nobody has that ability. You're the only one that has that ability.
Yeah, no, it's so true. You're in the power seat. You decide how you're going to react.
Yeah.
And it's not to say that we're not, sometimes there are things that are just heavy. And like, I think what I've noticed for myself is it's not that I don't get triggered and I can go into that state, but I can recognize it quicker. And go, okay, Katy, here we are. How do we bring ourselves back?
I always wondered that, because I have a few, friends that are kind of in that realm that you're in. So I'm like, I wonder what Katy Marie would do when she gets cut off on the freeway. Is she like, yeah, we're cool? Or is it, curse at him a little bit? I might curse
a few words, and then I'm like, wait a second.
Okay.
Who knows? Not always. Sometimes I'm like, it's cool. But then, sometimes I swear at them, and then I bring myself back.
So with your profession, with your business, you do a lot of, I'll call it mountain therapy, right? You take your clients into the mountains.
Yes.
Help them with breath work. So for sake of time, in a couple minutes, explain how all that works, and then we'll start wrapping up here.
Okay. So it's been really cool to watch, because coming back to trusting my gut, I recognized how the mountains were a part of the therapy, because they were for me too. And so the schooling that I've gotten with the subconscious mind, the breath work, the compassionate inquiry approach, added in with nature, I take my clients into the mountains and I bring all of that there, and it's kind of in a flow state of like when and what we do, but it's helping them connect back into themselves with these different tools and the mountains, grounding, and there's just so much power there.
So what would be like a typical client? What's the avatar? Who comes to see Katy Marie?
Someone who is looking to reconnect to themselves, who's feeling lost and wants to start to come back into the power of their truth. And CEOs, doctors, women, stay-at-home moms.
Do you have clients men and women, or mainly women?
I actually, men and women. For the longest time, I thought it would just be women, but men need help just as much as women do right now.
Sometimes more.
I know, seriously, they really do. Yeah. And so helping them, it's essentially helping them learn how to come back home to themselves and trust themselves and connect back into the truth of nature and letting nature hold them through the process.
So a CEO hires you.
Yeah.
You guys connect. What does week 1 look like?
Week 1 is going to be, we would do a gentle hike, depending on their fitness level, to kind of introduce them into the mountain. And I like to do a lot of the teaching through hiking. Some guided meditation when we get to our destination, to just kind of help them drop into and feel their connection to themselves and to the earth. Then after that, the next session is more of a deeper dive into that somatic work of like, hey, we'll go sit by a river or a place that we can be alone in nature, and we can start to go into those parts of yourself that have been closed down, those parts that we've shut off because we had to, right, in order to survive, and start to give space for that. And then a breath work session, so that the breath work session is like coming in with a power washer, a power hose, and just going, we are just moving a lot of the energy. And then more, and then just kind of gauging the client. It'll be more of the same thing: hiking, somatic work, breath work, things like
and
that.
usually the agreement's for how long? Month, 2 months, 3 months?
3 months is what I like to say is like a 90-day period to really start to work through and see those changes. The first month is a focus on like coming back to that inner child, really holding them. And then the second month is like coming more into yourself and like connecting into yourself and your body. And then the third month is, hey, who are you? Like what's your highest self? Let's connect into them and help them and help you expand into that and grow. So it's kind of, it builds on each other. But again, there is a little bit of fluidity as, you know, the client and I decide what's best as we move forward.
And what are some of the results that you see?
Oh my gosh, I've seen some beautiful things happening with my clients, like just like a freedom to be in their skin, doing things that they're afraid to do. They're having the courage to say things, to take risks that they maybe wouldn't have been able to before, and just be comfortable to be who they are and share that with the world, which again is benefiting everybody, their family, their career, and most importantly themselves, you know, like being happy to be in themselves and live and not be afraid, you know, because I think a lot of us we live in a hustle mentality, fear-based. It's like, no, what if we come back to a place of love? What if we come back to a place of leading from our hearts and trusting that we're held by something bigger than all of us? And we learn that by coming home and recognizing that it's always been here. So we find that, and then we see that and learn so much from the mountains.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, final question. This has been amazing. Thanks for your time. Thanks for
Yeah.
pouring into the audience here. This is fantastic. A lot of gems. And I love how the conversation has progressed, and I think we're at a really cool spot right now. The final question, I love asking this at the finale at the culmination of every show, but live life by design.
Yes.
What's your opinion of what it means to live Katy Marie's life by design?
I feel like living life by design for me has been living by coming home to myself and trusting what is right from within my heart and in my gut. Because if I was living my life by design, someone else's, right? Before,
by default. Yeah.
By default, yeah. And so trusting and being able to come back and make some honestly very scary choices that didn't make a lot of sense to anybody, even me at the time. Like this part that my brain, it didn't make sense to my brain at the time, but I knew from here. And that has made all the difference, because now I get to live a life that is authentically mine. Like it's pulling me in a way. I've learned trust the pull, let go of the outcome, because there's so much that's out of our control, but I can choose to make choices that I'm happy. Like I'm creating a life that I can wake up and go, you know what? I'm really grateful to be alive. And that's because it's coming from within.
Beautiful. So. With that said, this is a show. Thank you so much.
Thank you.